Hello guys, hi, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to the 2021 online World Youth Taekwondo Camp live talk concert. So my name is Fabien, I'm from France and we will be together for 1 hour. Hello guys. Okay, so I heard that you guys are from different countries from all around the world. So maybe there are people from America, South America, North America, from Africa, Asian countries. So all right, so who's from Asia? I can see you guys, the comment you leave on the YouTube channel. Hi guys. All right, so who's from Bangladesh? Okay, we have people from Bangladesh. We have Sumaya Islam here. We also have Joya Taekwondo from Bangladesh. Hi. Okay, so who is from, oh, we have people from Morocco. Morocco, hi. Indonesia, okay. Clarine Chandra, Indonesia, hi. Hello. So what time is it in Indonesia now? Maybe similar. So here in Korea, we are in Seoul, Korea now, and it's 7 p.m. So what time is it there? Afternoon, okay. Hi, Indonesia, Malaysia, okay, I can see the Malaysian flag. Bangladesh, oh, Philippines, Marky Remoka, hi. All right, nice to meet you guys. So unfortunately, because of the situation today, we can't be together. I would have loved to meet you guys, being with you in Korea, maybe in Muju in the Taekwondo-Won. Unfortunately, because of the situation, we can't be together, but we will be together through this screen, through this camera for 1 hour. So I'm very pleased to meet you guys. So today we will be talking about Korea and also about Korean culture and a bit of Korean history too. And of course, to that wonderful martial art, that sport that links us all together, Taekwondo. Okay, so are you guys ready? So we will be together chatting for 1 hour. So if you have any question, you can leave it on the chat. I will be checking it. So I will be talking about life in Korea, Korean culture, and then we will talk, of course, about Taekwondo, and then we will have a small Q&A session. So during that time, you can ask me any questions if you want. And yeah, I'll be glad to answer your questions. Yeah, there are also people who can write Korean. I don't know if you are Korean. Liti? Pabyang. Oh, yeah, that's my name in Korean. All right, South Africa. Oh, South Africa, nice, from very far. Okay, South Africa, very beautiful country. I've been there. Okay, so let's start. So today, the title is Korea through Taekwondo and its culture. So yeah, we will be talking about Korean culture first and a few things about Korea. But before we start, I would like to introduce myself to you guys. Maybe you guys do not know my face. So my name is Fabien. I am from France. And I was born and raised in Paris, so the capital of France. And I have been living in Korea, in Seoul, for around 13 years now. So it's been a very, very long time. And I am working in Korea as an entertainer. So I play in K-dramas, so Korean dramas. So maybe some of you guys might have seen me in some Korean dramas or on Korean TV. Maybe you guys know Running Man, the show, right? Running Man, very famous. Yeah, so I've been in that show already. And I'm also a specialist in Korean history. So I give lectures on Korean culture and Korean history. And of course, my link to Korea, to that country, is Taekwondo. So maybe just like a lot of you guys. So I started Taekwondo when I was 5 years old. So that was back in France. So a long time ago. And I have been practicing Taekwondo ever since. Yeah, my mother wanted me to practice martial art. So that's how I started Taekwondo. At that time in Paris, there were not that many Taekwondo-jang, so the place where we train Taekwondo, right? And luckily, there was a Taekwondo-jang right next to where I used to live in Paris. So when I was 5 years old, I started to train. And now I have been training for, a long, long time. And I am still training now in Korea. And thanks to Taekwondo, I got to know a lot about Korean culture. So I used to watch Korean movies related to Taekwondo. I used to watch also a lot of Korean dramas, and I used to love Korean music because I would watch the Taekwondo videos with Korean music, so that led me to be interested into Korean pop music, K-pop, right? So yeah, that's my link to Korea. So once again, very nice to meet you guys. And yeah, let's start this trip through Korean history and culture and Taekwondo together. You guys ready? Yeah, I love Taekwondo. How old are you now? Guess how old am I? So I will let you a hint. So I told you I started Taekwondo when I was 5 years old, and I've been practicing Taekwondo for more than 25 years. So you can make the calculation, right? It's been a long time. Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So today's program, actually I didn't know how much you guys knew about Korea. Have you ever guys been to Korea? Any of you have been to Korea? I was going to say raise your hand, but I can't see you. So can you write on the chat? Oh yes. Bonjour de la France. Bonjour Amelia. Salut. I'm from Morocco. Shaib. Yes. Okay, so who has been in Korea? Yes, Mohammed. That's right. Okay, so maybe some of you have been to Korea, some of you haven't been to Korea, so I will try to be very comprehensive to talk about a lot of things about Korean culture. So if you have any questions, once again, you can write it on the chat and I will read it. So yeah, I didn't know if you guys knew a lot about Korea, so we will be talking about a lot of things about Korean culture and Korean history and funny things about Korea. So yeah, let's get started right now. I haven't been to Korea, but I hope to visit very soon. Yes, you should visit. So now maybe it's not the best time to travel, but when this pandemic is over, I definitely encourage you to visit Korea. It's a very nice country, and maybe if you train Taekwondo in Korea, you will see that it's very, very nice. So yeah, I encourage you guys to come to Korea. Okay, so first I will talk about changes in Korea. So I told you that the first time I came to Korea was 2007. So it's been a long time, right? It's been 14 years, my first trip to Korea. And at that time, the knowledge about Korea was very poor. I remember at that time, a lot of my friends or family, they didn't know much about Korea. Some people even didn't know the difference between South Korea and North Korea. I guess you guys know the difference between the two countries. And yeah, some people thought that was a dangerous country. So yeah, the knowledge on Korea was very, very poor back then. But now, in 2021, it's way more popular. Korean K-pop music is very popular. The Korean movies are very popular. The Korean food is very popular. I guess you guys have heard about, at least about maybe BTS, or maybe about you've seen a Korean movie. Maybe you have seen Parasite, which has won the Palme d'Or at the Cannes festivals recently. Maybe you are watching lately a Korean drama on Netflix. So you have the Squid Game, right? Ojigo Game, which is very popular these days. I think it's #1 in the US. So I watched it myself. It's kind of cruel, but it's also a nice drama. So it's clear that Korea was being unfairly overlooked, but things changed very drastically in a very short span of time. And yeah, now Korea is a very cool country, attracting a lot of tourists. But when I first came to Korea, even myself, I didn't have much knowledge on Korea. Of course, I knew Taekwondo because I was very fond of this martial art, and I had been watching a few Korean movies, but I didn't know much about the Korean culture. And when you are a foreigner coming to Korea for the first time, the thing that you will experience here is culture shock. So I would like to talk with you about a few culture shocks that I've had in Korea. So maybe some of you guys have been in Korea. For the one who have been here, you can let me your culture shock on the chat, because I think we all have maybe some common ones and maybe some different ones. So yeah, I will talk to you about the cultural shocks that I have in Korea. And the first one is samgyetang. So I don't know if you guys like Korean food. I really love Korean food. It's one of my favorite food. I eat Korean food every day because I'm living in Korea, and yeah, I can't live without Korean food. Whenever I go in another country, I'm always craving for Korean food, looking for Korean food. But when I first came to Korea, I was not used to Korean food. So things you need to know about Korean food. A lot of food is spicy here. So maybe, yeah, you will be surprised at the beginning because the food is very hot. And one of the cultural shock I had was eating samgyetang. Have you guys heard of samgyetang? Can you see the picture? Yeah, I see Marky Ramoka who has shown an emoticon. Maybe you know what is samgyetang. So samgyetang, it's a hot steaming ginseng chicken soup. So insam, right? Insam soup. And it has a small chicken inside, stuffed with rice inside. But I don't know if you can see on the picture, it's quite funny to watch. Actually, the first time I had samgyetang in Korea, I haven't been in Korea for that long. And I didn't speak Korean at all. I had no idea of what was samgyetang. So I went to a Korean restaurant to eat samgyetang with my Korean friend. And my friend who spoke English, he told me, yes, we're gonna have a Korean soup, Korean chicken soup. But usually when you think about a Korean chicken soup, I don't know for you guys in your guys' country, but for me in France, when we think about a soup, we think about a broth that is made of chicken soup. We don't think about a chicken. So we go to that samgyetang restaurant and my friend tell me, yeah, let's have samgyetang together. So I'm like, yeah, okay, cool, let's have that. And the waiter comes in and he brings that bowl that you see on the picture. And so I was waiting for soup, but he brings a bowl and inside there is a very small chicken like that with the legs tied like this, like this. So I was very surprised to see a very small chicken like this with like the legs tied inside the very small bowl. I was like, what's going on? Because I had never seen such a very small chicken. So yeah, that was kind of a surprise for me. So in Korean we call it yongdae. So it's the small chicken that you have. And yeah, after I start eating this, and inside the chicken there is rice that is stuffed inside the chicken. So it was very surprising for me. So that was one of my first cultural shock. And the second one was that Korean people, they eat very hot, meaning sometimes the food is spicy, but sometimes it's just hot. And they eat the samgyetang during summer. So in Korea, we have 3 days of summer, which are called the sambok. And during these 3 days, which are the hottest days in Korea, we eat the samgyetang. But the samgyetang is very hot. And my friend, he was eating this. And I couldn't understand how I was doing that because for me that was too hot. So maybe I started after 10 minutes, the time that it gets cooler. But yeah, that was my first cultural shock in Korea. We have vegetable soup. Hi from Guam. Hi Guam. Hello, yeah. I love Korean ramyeon. Yeah, Korean ramyeon is good. But you should try samgyetang if you haven't tried samgyetang. It's a very good food. And the second cultural shock that I had was this second-hand sell trucks. So to give you the story, I was in Korea for maybe 2 days or something, and I was sleeping because of the jet lag. I was tired, and sometimes in Korea you have this kind of, you can see the truck here. You have this kind of trucks that goes in the streets, not that much these days, but at that time, maybe more than 10 years ago, there were a lot of these trucks. So they go into the street and you can hear they have like a voice speaker and they goes like, 냉장고, 세탁기, aircon, 팝니다. And I didn't speak Korean at that time, so I had no idea about what he was saying. So I thought, because in France, when we hear this kind of message, it's maybe an emergency. So since I had a few knowledge about Korea, I was, oh, maybe there is danger. So for me, I thought he was saying, this is an emergency. Please go to the shelter. this is a very dangerous situation. So I didn't understand. So I was taking my clothes and I was taking my bag and I was going outside and I see this truck who is selling piano or fridge or air conditioner. And I was, what was going on? I was not understand. I thought that was a dangerous situation, but that guy was only selling his second-hand refrigerator. So that was one of my cultural shock in Korea. So sometimes you will see in some areas in Korea this kind of trucks. So don't be surprised. There is no danger. They are totally fine. Sometimes they sell sweet potato. Sometimes they sell apples, food. It's very good. So you can go and buy some food. It's totally all right. No danger. Don't be surprised. So yeah, that was my second cultural shock in Korea. That's funny. Yeah, that's a very good memory for now. At that time, I was very surprised, but yeah, that was one of my funny memory in Korea. And another cultural shock that I had is that in Korea, everything is fast. But when I tell you everything is fast, it's like really, really, really fast. Korean people are fast in everything. So when you go to Korea, you will arrive probably if you come by plane, which is gonna be the case in most of the time. You will land, and in Korea you don't wait. You just stand up whenever the plane has touched the floor. And Korean people, they will go out of the plane very quickly. And I always tell my friend, if you want to go out of the airport very fast, you have to follow Korean people because they will always be the first one to go out of the airport. They're very fast in everything. So they take their luggage and after they're running. You see people, so usually when you come to Korea, you're in holiday, so you take your time, you're slow, you watch everything around. But Korean people, they have like just one goal. It's going home, and they're very fast to go home. And yeah, after the first days in the city for me was a total cultural shock because coming from France, which is a country where we take time, you know, we kind of enjoy life, eating very slowly and drinking coffee very slowly. But in Korea, it's not like that. In Korea, we do everything fast. So I guess it has some pros and cons. The good points is that you get everything very fast. So your food, you get it very fast. Everything related to administration paper, you get it very, very fast in Korea. And yeah, for the negative points, I guess you need to get used to it because if you don't go fast, you're not like in phase with the society. So I've been living in Korea for more than 13 years now. So at first, for me, that was difficult to see everything that was going that fast. And now I am faster than Korean people. I'm always 빨리 빨리. So that's one of the words you will hear in Korea a lot. 빨리 빨리. It means fast, fast, quick, quick. So yeah, if you go to Korea, you probably hear the 빨리 빨리. And so you can see on the picture here on the side. So that's a picture inside an elevator. So you might wonder why is that picture related to the 빨리 빨리, to the fast culture in Korea. It's because in Korea, when people go into an elevator, they're not waiting for the door to close. They will always push the button like that. So first they will go inside the elevator, then they will push the closing button, and then they will push the floor they want to go to. So they go fast for everything. I think some of you guys mentioned that you like to eat ramyeon. And so Korean people, when they eat ramyeon, so you know you have to put boiling water inside the bowl, and then you have to wait at least 1 or 2 minutes for the ramyeon to get boiled. But in Korea, they don't wait. They put the hot water inside of it, and after 30 seconds, they start eating. So maybe like the noodles are not cooked enough, but whatever, they will start eating. So yeah, that's one of the numerous funny points I had experiencing the 빨리 빨리 culture in Korea. Okay. All right. So now I would like to talk about keywords to understand Korean society. So I don't know how much you guys know about Korean culture and Korean society. So I selected a few words for you to get to know better Korean society. And the first one would be Jong. So have you heard about Korean Jong? So actually there is no English word for that. You just usually don't translate it. You talk about you talk about Jong. And if you want to translate it into English, it could be translated as feelings or warmth, but it's actually way more complex than that. So let's take a minute to talk about the Jong concept. So it's a concept that is very particular to Korean culture, I think. And maybe if you have been to Korea, you probably have experienced the Jong, maybe without even knowing it. So it's a connection between two people that brings people together. So you can feel the Jong in a lot of different aspects of your life, in your family, of course, but maybe also at work, sometimes with people you've just met, or people you don't even like. We call it the Myunjong in Korea. So it's very hard to describe. I guess you more have to feel it. So I've been living in Korea for a long time, so I kind of learned after all these years how to feel the Korean Jong. It's a very special feeling that you have, a strong connection between two people. So as you know, Korea is a society where the notion of group, so being together, right? The group is very important. So the group takes precedence over individual interest. So you think about the group before thinking about your own interest. So you need Jong to be able to live in a group. And usually in Korea, you can feel a strong sense of Jong between people from the same school or guys who went to the army together, for instance. So there is a notion of mutual support, help, and sometimes obligation, meaning when you have a Jong connection with someone, sometimes you have obligation with this person. So if you come to Korea and if someone tells you 정이 많다, it means you have a lot of Jong. So it's a compliment. It means that you guys are getting well together. And in the other hand, if someone tells you 정이 없다, it might be a sign that you are being too individualistic, or at least according to that person's standards. Is Jong something like love or friendship? I think it would be more considered as a friendship. It's different than friendship, but you can feel the Jong between friendship. For instance, two people who have been friends for a long time, maybe they went to the same school, primary school together, so they've been knowing to each other for a long time, so they will share a lot of stories together, right? So we will say in Korea, Jong nanuda, meaning that they will share the Jong. So you guys actually might have shared Jong with someone from your school or from your Taekwondo Jong, training together. I don't know, for instance, you're training with someone and it's very hot, it's summer, and you don't have water, and your friend will give you a bottle of fresh water. So it's kind of a Jong connection between you guys. So it's kind of friendship, but it's more subtle than that. Mm-hmm. Yes, you've heard of that. Yeah, they always say we instead of I. That's a very good remark, Marky. So yeah, they use we instead of I or mine. For instance, Korean people, to say their country, they will not say Korea, they will say 우리나라, which means our country. 우리나라 is, our country. They will not say my country. When I talk about France, sometimes I will use France. Sometimes I will say my country, in my country, but in Korea, you don't say, oh, in Korea, you say, oh, in our country. So yeah, this is a notion of group. That's a very good remark. It would be like a connection. Yeah, exactly. That's a connection. That's the exactly that. Trixie and Dylan, sense of community. Exactly. So Mohammed asked me, can you give a close meaning or synonym in English? So as I told you, a close word would be warmth, something like warm. Yeah, warm connection. Okay. 몇 시예요? 안 보입니다. Okay, so another keyword to understand Korean is unity. So in Korean, we say 단결력. So you can see on the picture, maybe you guys were too young to recognize that. Actually, I was very young too at that time. In 2002, I don't know if you guys like football. You like football? In 2002, there was a World Cup, Football World Cup, that was co-organized by Korea and Japan. And this picture is actually in front of the City Cheong of Seoul. So 2 million people gathered together during this World Cup. And Korea did very well in that World Cup because they went all the way through semifinals. They played against Italy, against Spain, huge European teams, and they won, and they went all the way through semifinals. And for Korean people, that was just like a legendary tournament. So all these people gathered together, and it's a thing that is very particular to Korea. I have been witnessing during my life in Korea. Korean people, they have a strong sense of a group, of being together. So if you know a little bit about Korean history, Korea has suffered a lot through history, a lot of invasions, and the country has always defended itself by being together, meaning the people, they will always help each other. So they've been through a lot of invasions, a lot of hardships, but Korean has this sense of unity, meaning that people gather together. And they have a very strong sense of unity that helps them to get rid of all these hardships and always become one unity. All right, so another word that I would like to tell you about is nunchi. Have you guys heard of nunchi? Probably not. So when I was a kid, I used to fancy Spider-Man or Superman, except for the outfit. I really wish I could fly. So even when I was training Taekwondo, I was always like doing flying kicks and everything because I wanted to fly. So have you ever guys been dreaming of being a superhero in your life? What if I tell you that Korean people have a superpower? Would you believe me? Maybe not. I'm not talking about flying or teleportation. I'm talking about something that is even better than that. It's a power that can change your social life, that can help you create connection with your friends, maybe at school, and maybe with your lover, and in your everyday life. And that power, so to say, is called nunchi in Korean. So once again, we don't have any translation for that. But it's composed of two words, that is nun, which means the eye, and chi, which means it refers to measurement. So measure something with your eyes. So how can that be a superpower? So it's more complicated than it looks. So nunchi is the art of reading people's mind. So how can you read people's minds? That's not possible. Yes, it is possible, and Korean people, trust me, they're very good at reading people's mind. So in Korean culture, we have this thing, sometimes you don't need to say things. You have to guess what the person you're talking with is thinking of. So you have to understand the non-verbal speech. And it's something that is very, very important in Korea and in Korean society. So to give you an example, so that you can understand better what is nunchi, I will tell you a story of Queen Victoria of England. So during Buckingham Palace banquet, there were visit foreign diplomats, and one of them picked up a finger bowl intended to wash their hands. You know, sometimes when you go to some restaurants, you have this small bowl with water inside that you use to wash your hands, right? But some of the diplomat, he didn't understand that was for washing your hands, and he drank the water inside of it. So what would a person without nunchi said? So the person with no nunchi would have said, oh no, you don't drink that, it's for your finger, it's to wash your finger. But the queen has a lot of nunchi. Instead of saying that, which could have made the guy embarrassed, you know, because he has drunk the water that was used to wash the finger. She didn't say anything, and she drank the water. And all the people around started to drink the water that was used to wash their hands, so that the guy didn't feel bad and he didn't knew anything. Everybody was drinking the water. So this is a very good example of nunchi. So if you have nunchi, you can know how to adapt your behavior without having someone to tell you what to do. Okay, so now let's talk about Taekwondo in Korea, because we are all linked by the Taekwondo. So for me, I have been training in France for 14 years, and in Korea also for 14 years. And actually, before coming to Korea, I was very curious about how was Taekwondo in Korea. Were all Korean people good at Taekwondo? Were Korean people wearing Taekwondo-bok in the street? Actually, I don't know if you guys have ideas about Korea. For me, before coming to Korea, I thought that Korean people would be wearing dobok all the time, because my friends from France who went to Korea before me, they took picture, and on that picture I saw people who were wearing the Taekwondo-bok in the street and in the restaurant. So I was very surprised, because in France we don't wear the Taekwondo-bok outside of the Taekwondo-jang. So I thought Korean people would wear the Taekwondo-bok outside, but actually it was not the case. It was just my friends who went to a Taekwondo tournament, and maybe people who went out to eat something, or in the street they were wearing the Taekwondo-bok. So no, if you come to Korea, people won't wear the Taekwondo-bok all the time. They wear clothes just like you and me. They wear shirts and pants, regular pants. So they don't wear Taekwondo-bok. They wear Taekwondo-bok when they practice Taekwondo. So yeah, I was very curious about Taekwondo in Korea. And so I wanted to talk to you about the Taekwondo in Korea, but I would like to answer some questions that you guys might be asking yourself about Taekwondo in Korea, and that I was actually asking myself before coming here. So the first one would be, do all Korean people practice Taekwondo? So not all people, but a lot of Korean people have practiced at least once in their life, at least for males. So you might know that Korean males, they have to go to the army for around 2 years, and they learn Taekwondo at the army. So all Korean guys, basically, they are black belt, so first dan, if they went to the army. And actually, if you got your black belt before going to the army, for instance, you're like second dan, third dan, or third poom, you get some advantages during your military duty, because your grade will be higher than the other. So I wouldn't say all Korean people go to Taekwondo schools, but I would say a lot of kids have practiced at least once in their life Taekwondo. A lot of Korean kids learn Taekwondo at cram schools. So in Korea we call it hagwon, or we call it Taekwondo Academy, or 체육관, which is a word that could be translated as gym. So yeah, in Korea you learn Taekwondo, of course, in Taekwondo-jang, but we call it hagwon, or academy also. So this is a picture of a Taekwondo school. Sometimes I go there to train with the kids. So if you come to Korea, one of the things that might be surprising is you will see a lot of small buses that picks up kids after school. So they are this very small bus. They go to the school, they pick up the kids, and they take them to the Taekwondo school. So Taekwondo hagwon, or Taekwondo, or to the 체육관, and they train every day, or almost every day. So for parents who are working, it's very convenient, and it solves actually the pickup issue, because you know in Korea we work a lot, and usually people who work, they finish pretty late, so they don't have time to pick up their kids after school. So these buses, they will pick up the kids and they will take them to the Taekwondo school, and they will be there for maybe 1 hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, until the parents pick the kids at the Taekwondo school. So yeah, do they only train at these schools? No, they don't only train for 2 or 3 hours, especially when they are kids. You play games, just like in this picture here. I was playing game with the kids. So we train Taekwondo, we do the pumse, we do the kibon, the basic movements, and then after we will be playing other games. So we educate the kids also. We teach them important values of Taekwondo. So you might know the values of Taekwondo. So courtesy, integrity, perseverance, self-control, and indomitable spirit, which are the 5 values of Taekwondo. So we teach them this kind of value. So Taekwondo is very important in Korean education and for the kids. And you can feel that in Korean people after when they become adult, because they have learned these values. So they kind of have these values inside their education, even maybe for you, because you have learned Taekwondo since you were young. So maybe you kind of like adapted to these values too. So yeah, it helped children to develop and have a positive attitude, also develop their self-confidence, their self-discipline, because we teach that to kids too. And yeah, a lot of kids there gets part of their education, I guess, at the Taekwondo Academy. And yeah, maybe that's one of the reasons why Koreans are so hard workers and also very, very polite. You're green belt in Bangladesh. Good. Green belt. That's good. So for adults, it's very rare for them to practice Taekwondo because life is very busy here. In Korea, when you start being at university or when you start working, you're very, very busy. So adults who are practicing Taekwondo are usually people who work in the Taekwondo area or who used to be like Taekwondo athletes before. It's not a sport that one would practice like we do practice football or basketball in Europe or maybe in other countries. There are exceptions. There are Taekwondo school for adults. There are Taekwondo dojang in Seoul, but it's kind of rare. Sometimes they pair it with English, so meaning that the master might be a Korean that speaks English or a foreigner like me who speaks English, and they will teach the Taekwondo in English. So they will learn both Taekwondo and both English in the same times. But yeah, usually Korean people are very busy, so not much time to practice Taekwondo. So one of the things that surprised me when I was when I first came to Korea is that you could learn Taekwondo as a major in university. But before we talk about that, I would like you to watch a short clip. And this is a promotional video about Useok University, the Taekwondo major. So let's watch this video together.
안녕하세요. 우석대학교 태권도학과 윤정욱 교수입니다. 우석대학교 태권도학과에서는 겨루기단, 품새단, 시범단 학생들이 꿈과 희망을 위하여 열심히 학업과 훈련에 임하고 있으며 강의실 및 훈련장은 학과 수업에 필요한 최고의 시설을 갖추고.
Okay, so did you guys enjoy the video? So you can see that you can learn here Taekwondo as a major in college. I don't know if it's possible in you guys' country. Maybe you will tell me. Maybe in Malaysia or in Bangladesh it's possible. But as a French person, it was not possible for me to pick Taekwondo as a major in college. Otherwise, of course, I would have picked Taekwondo when I was in France. I would have loved to train in a university like that. As you can see, the infrastructures are very good, and yeah, you have the Pumse team, the Kyorugi team, so a fight team, and you also have a demonstration team, so they are very impressive. All of the university in Korea are good. So the famous universities for Taekwondo are the Korean National Sport University, also the Gyeonggi Yongin 대학교, which is the Gyeonggi Yongin University, which was the first university to offer Taekwondo major in the world. So that was in 1982. So it's been 40 years, yeah, almost 40 years now. Other famous university are Gyeonggi University and Shinhan University. And just like you have seen on this picture, Usok University, I can't name them, all of them, because there are a lot. But yeah, maybe one day you will have the chance to come to Korea and yeah, go to a Korean university and train Taekwondo as your major. So now let's talk about how Taekwondo is different in Korea. So this picture was taken during the demonstration of the Seoul Olympics in 1988. So as you already probably know, Taekwondo is Olympic sports since the Sydney Olympic. So that was in 2000. But during the Seoul Olympics in 1988, there was a huge demonstration. It's very impressive. If you have the chance, you can watch it on YouTube. This demonstration was very, very impressive. So is Taekwondo different in Korea? Yes, it is very different. Is it better? Yes, it is better. So you know the roots of Taekwondo are in Korea. And this martial art was made by Korean people for Korean people. So it includes values that are the one of Korean people. And these values could be spiritual discipline, tenacity, and as you might already know, in Korea there is a strong sense of competition and it pushes you to give your best. So when you are training, you always have this sense of competition. You train very hard in Korea. You train hard in other countries, but as for me, when I came to Korea, I realized that Korean people, they were always putting a lot of efforts in their training. Maybe after the training, when the training is over, they will stay 30 minutes more and do more balchagi, so more kicks, or more pumse for maybe 30 minutes, sometimes 1 hour. Sometimes they will come before the actual training and train by themselves. So all of these small things, when you practice every day, makes you better. So I have trained in Korea for more than 10 years, and definitely I can say that training in Korea will help you improve your Taekwondo a lot. Okay, so now I would like to show you a few YouTube channels that I like about Taekwondo in Korea. So first, let's watch a video. So this channel is called Taekwon Hallyu. So you can look for it on YouTube. And it's one of my favorite YouTube channel. So let's watch the video together.
이렇게. (28살) 전재인입니다. 반갑습니다. 한영훈이라고 합니다.
정찬입니다. 23살 경희대학교 풍사단 강원진입니다. 24살 하천대학교 용오름 주장 추선우입니다. 21살 용산대학교 태권도 지원단 박지성입니다.
3학년 1반 정재훈입니다.
Okay, so how was it? Did you like this video? I think that Marky Remorca has been watching this channel. She told me that on the chat. So yeah, I highly recommend you guys subscribe to this channel. This is one of my favorites. So there are two guys, I think, that are doing this channel, and they're very good. So they do a lot of pumse, a lot of vlog related to Taekwondo. I think yesterday or something, they uploaded a video about the Taekwondo-Won. So I guess you guys can check the channels. Other channels that I like about Taekwondo on YouTube, of course, K-Tigers, which is a famous team in Korea and maybe from all over the world. So there is also Chejedo, which is another YouTube channel about Taekwondo in Korea, and also the Mukas channel. You have the Taekwondo-Won channel, so you can subscribe to all these channels. So maybe I will put the link in the YouTube description so you guys can subscribe to this channel. I also have my YouTube channel on Korea if you guys want to check. So you can type my name on YouTube and you will find my, my channel. So yeah, I mentioned it before, the Taekwondo-Won. So if you are a Taekwondo lover, you've probably heard about the Taekwondo-Won, which is located in Muju. So Muju is a city in maybe south from Seoul. So it's kind of a pilgrimage destination for international Taekwondo practitioners. So if you are a Taekwondo lover and if you come to Korea, you will obviously go to the Taekwondo-Won. I have been to the Taekwondo-Won myself a few times, and the city of Muju around is very beautiful. It's very beautiful during the 4 seasons of the year. And the Taekwondo-Won, like the structure, it's amazing. For people who love Taekwondo, you need to go there once in your life. It's kind of a place to go. So it is run by the Taekwondo Promotion Foundation under the Ministry of Korean Minister of Sports, Cultural and Tourism. And yeah, the campus is located in the city of Muju. It's in the North Jeolla province of South Korea. So it's around 3 hours drive from Seoul. So you have buses, you can go there by different ways. It's very easy to go in Korea. Transportation are very good. And you have a lot of facilities. I can't name them all because you have a lot of things to do in this Taekwondo-Won. You have a large arena, training centers, you have a theater, you have a museum about Taekwondo, which I highly recommend you guys visit. You have restaurant dormitories, so people usually they go there for a seminar, so they will be staying for sometimes one week, a few days, so you can sleep there and actually eat there and do everything. You also have a observatory with an awesome view. I will show you a picture after that. And the Taekwondo Museum is it's the world's first and the largest Taekwondo sim museum. So as I live in Korea, I was lucky enough to go there many times. So probably one day you will visit Korea. So I highly recommend you go there. Yeah, that's the picture of the view of the observatory. So when you go there, you have this very nice view. That was taken during fall. So fall is it's a very beautiful time in Korea. One day I will go there. Yeah, I wish you guys can go there. I will subscribe, yes. Okay, so actually now we are gonna have a small Q&A. Actually, I asked you guys if you had questions, and I was very happy to find that you guys sent me a lot of questions. So I've got all of your questions, guys, and I will try to answer them. So the first question that was asked to me is it tough to live in Korea? And can I learn Taekwondo in Korea too? So no, it's very nice to live in Korea. I have been living here for 13 years. So if it was tough to live in Korea, I wouldn't be living here now. I would be maybe in another country or back to France. So no, Korea, it's very nice to live here. Korean people are very nice, very open-minded, very friendly to foreigners, very open to foreign cultures. So it's definitely a nice country to live in. Of course, it's tough to live abroad because you're far from your family, you're far from your friends, from the culture you know. Maybe you will have to adapt to the language, so Korean language you will have to learn. You will have to learn the Korean culture. We've learned a few things about Korean culture together. The Pali culture, you will have to adapt to this culture maybe. But it's not tough to live in Korea. I really enjoy my life here. And if you guys have the chance to come one day to Korea as a tourist, as a student, or to work here. I'm sure you will enjoy. And I think I've got a question about the university in Korea. I think one of you guys asked me if all university in Korea were doing the Taekwondo major. Not all of the universities, but in almost every city in Korea, not only in Seoul, you can go to other places. You will have definitely some place where you can learn Taekwondo as a major in university. And can I learn Taekwondo in Korea? Of course, this is the country for Taekwondo. So if you come to Korea, you have to do Taekwondo. You have to learn Taekwondo. Second question was, the second question was, what's the best place or the best food in Korea? Oh, so I could do 1 hour or 2 hours on this subject. So I just picked one place, and this is the island of Jeju. So Jeju-do, you might have heard of this island. So this is an island that is located in the south part of Korea. And so I have been traveling to a lot of places in the world, and this is the most beautiful place I've ever seen in my life. So you can see on the picture that is shown on the side. So you have beautiful nature there. So this is a volcanic island. So there used to be a volcano a few 100,000 years that blew, and this island was made out of this lava. So it's an island that was made by the volcanic explosion, and it's just so beautiful. And these days, since we cannot travel outside, go to foreign countries, I really enjoy going to Jeju-do. Actually, I was in Jeju-do this week for filming for work, and I went swimming, and it's just beautiful. The water it's very beautiful. As for food, so I have a lot of food to recommend to you guys. We talked about samgyetang before. One of the Korean food that you might already know is bibimbap, so which is rice mixed with vegetables. So it's actually good because I think everyone around the world can eat this food because it's made out of vegetables. So people who cannot eat meat, who don't eat meat, you can eat bibimbap. You can find it in a lot of places. You can find it in a lot of airplane companies when you fly to Korea, because they offer bibimbap, because this is maybe one of the most popular dish in Korea. So yeah, I highly recommend to try bibimbap. If you like spicy food, I would like to recommend tteokbokki. So maybe if you guys like Korean movies or Korean dramas, you might have seen scenes where young people are eating tteokbokki. So it's a culture in Korea. You go out of school and they sell tteokbokki. Of course, they sell tteokbokki in some restaurants, but usually you go after school with your friends. It's very cheap. You pay sometimes 2,000 won, which is in US dollar $2 or $3, and you can eat tteokbokki with your friends. So these tteokbokki are rice cakes and in a very spicy sauce, red sauce. And yeah, it's a very good dish. You should try it in Korea. Sometimes they sell it with fried potatoes. So you just dip them into the tteokbokki sauce, and it's very good. Who has tried tteokbokki here? Tell me. Nice to see you, Fabian. I think there is, yeah, nice to see you too. What's your belt rank? I'm a black belt for 5th dan. Okay, how hard is Korean language? Korean language is hard, but it depends on which country you're from. So it will not be as difficult as it is for people with a totally different language than from a people who is maybe from Japan or from China, which has some similarities in the grammar or in some words, who share the same roots. So as for me, as a French person, learning Korean was very difficult, but it's not impossible. You know, everything is possible in life, and learning a language like Korean is definitely possible. And you can learn the Korean alphabet that you can see maybe on the screen. You can learn that maybe in a few hours, maybe in one day. You don't need to be to study a lot. Maybe in 5 hours or 6 hours, you can memorize all the Korean characters. So it's very easy. So actually, I didn't know how to speak Korean or how to read and write Korean before I came to Korea. but you know, since I've been practicing Taekwondo since I'm a kid, I don't know about your dobok, but in my dobok here, it was written in Hangul, Taekwondo. So I could write Taekwondo before coming to Korea. So you guys maybe should try to learn a few characters. It's very easy. And if you come to Korea, it will make your life way easier if you know how to read and write Korean. So yeah, it's possible. And a lot of people asked me about Korean history. So before we have 5 minutes left, so I will talk about Korea, the Taekwondo history. So actually, Korea has a very long history. The first nation was created on the peninsula. It's called Gojoseon, and it's 2333 BC. So it's been almost 5,000 years. So there is a myth about the creation of the country, included heaven princes, a bear, tiger, and garlic. So you should check that out. It's pretty fun. So Korean martial arts started during the Gojoseon period and continued to develop during the Three Kingdoms period, which has lasted from 57 BC to 668 AD. So Korea was at that time divided into 3 countries. So in the north part of Korea, you had Goguryeo, you had Baekje in the southwest part, and you had Silla in the southeast part. So there were 3 different countries. And martial arts were practiced in these 3 different countries. So in Goguryeo, you could find on the ceiling of Muyongchong, which is a royal tomb of the Goguryeo dynasty, paintings that show Korean people practicing martial arts techniques that were very similar to the one used by Taekwondo. And in Baekje, so let me show you the picture. So yeah, that's the Muyongchong painting. So you can see they were practicing martial art at that time. In Baekje, which is another country, incense burner. So you know what is incense, right? With the smell. So this is an incense burner. It was excavated in Korea in 1993. It's called Baekje Kumdong Daehangno. So you can see on this incense burner that weaponless, so without weapon, martial art was developed in Baekje too. And also in Silla dynasty, subak, which is a term that was also used in Korea to refer to any fighting style that was using bare hands. Also shirum, that is Korean wrestling. So the third country would be Silla. So on the top you had Goguryeo, Baekje, and Silla. So you might have heard of Hwarang before. So maybe you guys have heard of Hwarang because of the drama. There's a drama called Hwarang. Maybe that's the picture that is maybe shown on the screen now. And have you guys played video games before? Have you guys played Tekken before? Do you remember there is a character who is doing Taekwondo and his name is Hwarang? So this is the Hwarang. So Hwarang in English could be translated as flowering knights or flower youths. So they were elite warrior group of male in Silla, and they were practicing a lot of different techniques, a lot of martial arts. And yeah, so you can find the roots of Taekwondo in the Silla dynasty too. And then Goryeo unified the country in the 10th century. So the 3 countries became one, and that country first was Silla, and then Silla became Goryeo in the 10th century. And there was a military regime over the country for 100 years, and many military officers were training without weapon martial arts such as subak and subaki. And if they wanted to get promotion, they needed to train to these martial arts. And then in the late 14th dynasty, the Joseon dynasty began. So 1392 to be more precise. Yeah, so martial arts such as subak, subaki, and kwanpop or taekyon were still practiced all over the country. And there were a lot of invasions during the Joseon dynasty. A lot of war, the Imjin War, and Korea, they had to defend themselves. Of course, they had weapons, but they needed to practice martial arts. And in the late 18th century, there was a king named Jeongjo, which is one of my favorite king in the whole history in Korea. And during Jeongjo's reign, there was a manual of martial art called Muedo Botongji that was published in the 18th century. And by watching to this manual, you can understand the nature of the Korean military science at that time and how they were practicing martial arts. So actually, I think I had also a question about how Taekwondo was developed in the 20th century. So, as you might know, Korea was made a colony of Japan in 1910. And during 30 years, Koreans were prohibited to do a lot of things. They were prohibited to use their own language, to use their Korean names, to use the Korean alphabet. And of course, they were prohibited to do their martial arts. So people, they used to gather and train secretly to the martial arts. But in 1955, on August 15th, to be more precise, Korea got its independence from Japan. And many martial arts schools were created. In Korea, we call them Kwan. So you might have heard of Cheongdokwan before, which is the first Taekwondo dojang that appeared in Korea after liberation. And the Korea Taekwondo Association was founded on September 16th in 1961, and later the name of Korea Taekwondo Association was changed to Korea Taekwondo Association. So the name Taekwondo, we began to use that term of Taekwondo maybe in the 60s in Korea. So it's been, 60 years, I would say. And then after the Kukkiwon, you might have heard of the Kukkiwon, was founded as the KTA, so the Korean Taekwondo Association Central Dojang. And it was in November, I think, 1972. So in the 80s, universities started to teach Taekwondo as a major. And as I mentioned before, in 88, Taekwondo, there was a huge Taekwondo demonstration at the Seoul Olympics. And in the 90s, a lot of Taekwondo Sabom, Taekwondo masters were sent to train abroad to a lot of countries in Europe, in the US, and Taekwondo started to develop maybe in the 90s. And in 2000, of course, the Sydney Olympic, Taekwondo became the official sport. And now Taekwondo is practiced by more than 200 countries all over the world, to your countries maybe, to Bangladesh, to Thailand, India, France, to Spain, to the US, a lot of countries, Brazil, everywhere around the world. And there are a few millions of Taekwondo practitioners from all over the world. So yeah, that was it for Taekwondo history. Actually, it's almost, it's past 8. So I think you guys might be hungry. I know you guys have trained before this session. So I think it will be it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this small session together. Once again, I would have loved to be with you together, maybe to have done a few kicks together. Unfortunately, we can't do that, but I hope you guys, learned things about Korean culture and Taekwondo. So keep training hard, and hopefully I will be seeing you soon in Korea or in some other part of the world. Once again, thank you very much, guys, and hopefully see you soon. 감사합니다. Bye.